Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we're looking at Bitcoin. It is time for another update, and here we start on the larger time frame where we begin our count with this series of 1-2 setups that have formed within this area, where now we would be looking at a more significant top to possibly be in place. And we could also track this as a series of 1-2 setups, but it is also perfectly fine and probably even preferred, in my opinion, to track this as a singular wave 1 to the upside. And yeah, even this could form another one too, but is this going to be the most likely interpretation? Not necessarily. I would rather be prepared for a more significant top to be in place within a larger wave 1 once we complete this pattern. And in terms of completion, I do have to say it is a full count available to us and it doesn't need any extensions higher. Does this mean that we will not get any? Well, clearly no. Yeah, we could always extend even higher, but the patterns don't necessarily suggest this to be a highly likely scenario anymore. Now, in terms of the correction for a wave 2, I would be watching the levels of support between the 31k all the way down to the 7k level. Now, this means also a couple of things. So initially, we should expect a quite significant correction within a wave 2, within the follow-up bear run. And yeah, we should expect to at least get to the first level of support. We clearly don't need to max out this area of support, and we should expect a 3-wave pattern to be able to consider this correction clearly complete. Now, this also means that we are still bullish on this chart as long as we hold the 7k level. So only below the 78.6% retracement could I really be looking for a more bearish scenario. In the long run, we are expecting still extensive upside potential. Yeah, I don't see this chart as bearish at all, and I don't really think there are people out there looking for bear cases where we go to zero or something like that. Yeah, on this chart we still have a lot of potential, we still have a lot of structure to build before we even have a more significant top within the super cycle. Now, in the previous videos, we were focusing anyway within this latest bull run, and within it, we were tracking this as a 1, 2, 3, 4th, and 5th. Now, again, this could be a full count. I don't need any additional extensions higher to track this pattern as complete. Could we get extensions higher? Absolutely we could, yeah. Within this structure, I could even consider, in some cases, that this third wave would still be ongoing. We'd still need a correction in wave 4 and the 5th wave to follow. I just don't want this to be the primary scenario, because if we really wanted to, we could come up with counts that would allow us to track continued support from the current prices all the way down to the 78.6% retracement at the 7k level and even below that. But we are talking about high impact levels of support we would need to track. Between the interpretation that we were tracking within an extension here in this wave 5 and the scenario that started the larger correction in the wave 2, I would require a more clear confirmation and some signals that a more significant bottom would be in place. Now, for example, if we are to extend within a larger correction in this area, I would be looking for a potential bottom if we form something like a 3-wave pattern to the downside, but I would still need an initial 5-wave move to the upside, and until we actually get such a signal, I wouldn't necessarily be looking for a position. I would be patient for the next level of confirmation for continuation higher. We are still within a relatively high risk area, especially now. Yeah, even though we could extend higher, we are certainly within a high risk area, and I wouldn't consider us to be within a lower risk area until we maybe hit some structural support that we have here between around the 56k down to the 49k level. Yeah, around that area we maybe could see something more of a significant relief rally, but I wouldn't necessarily look for a bottom even there. I would still be looking for the initial 5-wave move to the upside that would be able to give us an initial confirmation that a more significant low would be in place. Would that mean that we would need to look for the next all-time high? Absolutely not. It could be forming just a larger ABC pattern within a larger correction, and this could in the end turn into something like an ABC structure and take us even to lower prices, yeah? Even in a direct fashion. I wouldn't assume too much of it. I would be waiting for the signals and the confirmations on this chart, because currently we are within a high risk area and I wouldn't want you to be unprepared, yeah? Now, in the smaller time frame, we were in the previous videos actually preferring another low to consider a possible bottom within this wave 4. And ideally, we would have formed that quite quickly. Ideally, we would have already topped within this correction in the wave 4 in white and extended already in the 5th wave and formed a bottom. Because normally, within a wave 4 correction, which is what we are tracking here in the smaller time frame, yeah, this wave 4 correction, we would expect similar proportions in terms of duration with what we would have within a wave 2. Now, typically within the wave 4, it does last a little longer, but right now, if we are to form another low within this area, this would become quite a disproportional expectation to have here this tiny wave 2 correction and this massive wave 4 correction. I would be much rather inclined to believe that a more significant top would be in place, and even if we get something like a relief rally without breaking the area of support, I would be extremely skeptical of a more significant bottom and continuation to new all-time highs. Now, of course, if we get confirmation by forming an initial 5-way move to the upside, I will be looking for such a possible extension, but until such is the case, I would be extremely skeptical of any long position. Now, in this structure, currently we haven't even broken above the area of resistance for the wave 4, but I would still not look at this as the primary scenario for continuation lower anymore. If we are to continue lower, yeah, I would be tracking something probably like an A, B, C structure that could very easily even take us below the area of support. And again, below the area of support, I would be rather prepared and inclined to believe that a more significant top would be in place within this uptrend, and I would be looking for the larger correction into the wave 2 area of support that starts once again around the 31k level. And in terms of expectations, if this is to form a wave C, we could even look here for an ideal target that would be at the 100% extension of the wave A around the 63k level. Now, in the smaller time frame, we have also been looking for a potential initial 5-way move to the upside, because this would have allowed us to find an interesting opportunity for a trade setup. We have been tracking this yellow area of support for continuation in a wave 3, and we did hold it, we did continue higher. Now the thing is, we have an initial 3-wave move to the upside, and we have within this area a follow-up 5-wave move to the upside. This is possibly within an ending diagonal, but I am also considering the possibility of this being part of the wave 3 in yellow actually. So I am actually considering a possible bottom to be in place for this structure. Now, what would I actually need for this to be really the case? Well, I would be looking either for an ABC structure to form within this area and build the wave 3 to the upside. We can even look for the ideal target once again for this wave 3. And this would be at the 138.2% extension of the wave 1 around the 104.5k level. Then, what else is possible? So, since we have a 5-wave move within this area, we cannot assume that this is not a rather simpler ABC structure within a possible wave B in orange, which would force me to be prepared for the continuation to lower prices. Now, I want to track a couple of areas of resistance, and we will also highlight the last level of support I'm looking for continuation higher. So initially, I would be considering again the idea of an ABC structure to extend higher from this area. So we would have here within the wave 3 an ABC structure, in which case we did fall a little bit below the area of support, but it is nothing too significant that could not still recover and continue within a wave C to the upside. Within this expectation, we could even look for an ideal target for such a wave C, although ideally we would exceed it, because yeah, that would not be at the ideal target, or it would not reach the ideal target for the larger wave 3. So for this interpretation, we would ideally hold the current low and not break it for continuation within this wave C. A break below it would be a strong signal that this structure is likely to fail. Now, does this mean direct failure? Well, no, because even though we do have a potential ABC structure, this is also what we had within this initial wave 1 to the upside. We had an ABC structure. We were looking for a larger leading diagonal. We could do the same in this case. We could be looking at an ABC structure to have formed the top within this area. We could be looking for a larger 1-2 setup. Now, is this going to be a reliable area of support for a trade setup? Absolutely not. I would rather use this as an indication that a break below the 84k level would be a strong signal that this structure is likely not going to hold, and that we should be prepared for a break below the beginning of this uptrend, and yeah, for a more general failure, and very easily likely to end up following through within the orange interpretation. For this, I would be looking for a potential 1-2 setup within this area, and honestly, it is even rather suggested to me that this should be considered as a 1-2 setup anyway, because we have a potential initial 5-wave move to the downside here. So this is really suggesting to me that we should expect another low within this area. We should even track this idea of a 1-2 setup within the orange interpretation, because yeah, I want you to be prepared for the potential risk to follow through in this structure that could expect a third, fourth, and a fifth to still build before we form a more significant bottom. Now, in this expectation, we also get an area of resistance that we would very likely get into. Is this a must? Well, for this to be a reliable count, I would consider it so, but I have seen cases where we actually don't get into the area of resistance or support that we have for our correction. Sometimes we form more direct extensions lower, but right now I am inclined to believe that a more significant bottom may have formed within this wave to the downside, at least temporarily. Even on the RSI, we actually start to see some divergences. It is strongly suggesting to us that a more significant bottom would be in place. In an idea of a leading diagonal in this structure, I would be looking for a retracement, a relief rally into the area of resistance between the 90.4k level all the way up to the 95.2k level. A break above the 78.6% retracement in the orange interpretation would be actually a quite strong indication that a more significant bottom would already be in place and that perhaps we will even get another chance to follow through within this yellow scenario. Now, be aware of the key levels and the key points. Firstly, we have an initial 5-wave move to the downside within this area. It is highly expected that after a 3-wave correction, we form at the very least another 5-wave move to the downside. A break below the 78.6% retracement at the 84k level is a strong indication that this structure is going to fail, this yellow interpretation. So we are watching for continuation higher against this level. I strongly prefer that we follow through within at least another 5-wave move to the downside, even though it doesn't need to be the wave 3 in the orange interpretation. And at the moment, since we did form this initial 5-wave move to the downside, I would like to see a relief rally. I would expect a relief rally to unfold within this area, although once again, it is not a must. Sometimes we witness extensions, but yeah, right now I'm looking for a push into this area of resistance in orange and then for another continuation lower in a 5-wave structure. And for now, these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.